Quick but urgent disclaimer, this video contains footage of concerts with flashing lights, so if you're sensitive to that kind of thing, please take caution before watching this video. Thank you. Have you guys ever heard a song that was extremely good? So good, in fact, that you went to go find more stuff by the artist that made it, only to find out that it was the only song they had on Spotify and spent an insanely long period of time trying to find out any information you could about them to find their other releases and then make a YouTube video about them? Yeah, me neither, but if there was a band close to that description for me, it would have to be High Voltage. High Voltage is a J-rock band from Sapporo, Japan, formed in 2002 by singer and rhythm guitarist Takashi Taibo, lead guitarist Saito Kohei, bassist Yoshioka Takahiro, and drummer Hishitani Masahiro. If I had to describe what genres they are, I'd say, well, I don't know, let's check RYM to see what they describe them at. Oh, thanks, that narrows it down a lot. If I had to put High Voltage under one general genre, I'd say alternative rock. But since that's a pretty broad term, I'd say the genres that specifically describe them are garage rock and post-hardcore, and maybe punk, noise rock, and math rock. Think if Mudhoney, Fugazi, and Sonic Youth. And that alone should tell you that yes, it is more than worth it making a whole video on this band. This video will be split into 4 sections. First, we'll talk about my background with discovering the band. Second, I'll rate each album they've put out. Third, I'll talk about how underrated they are. And fourth, I'll ask the question and the title of the video. If you've heard of this band, then chances are you know them as the band that performed the first ending theme from Gurren Lagann, an anime I'll probably be reviewing soon, so subscribe if you want to see that. And I'm not here to call you a fake fan or anything like that because, I discovered them that way too. It's either you know them from Gurren Lagann or you know them because you got some rare Japanese CD. Anyways, the first time I heard that ending theme, it completely fucking blew me away. The song is called Underground, and if you haven't heard it before, please listen to it. It's on Spotify, and it is literally High Voltage's only release on there. Or listen to it on YouTube or something, but make sure you listen to the full version and not the TV-size version, so you get the full experience. Underground, on its surface level, is an already incredible song. It has an insane groove that sticks with you from start to finish. It's extremely catchy, it's punky and rebellious, and if you're like me and you like noisy, distorted rock songs, then it's right up your alley. But it's not just a masterpiece of garage/noise/punk rock, because it becomes even more impressive when you dig below the surface level and look at the song's structure. See, I'm a really annoying type of person called a musician, and I wanted to learn the song. I play both bass and guitar, and when it was time for my weekly lesson, I decided to take my bass. Why? I don't know. I don't think things through, and this is literally how I just decide everything. Anyways, I get there, and I tell my teacher that I want to learn the song on bass. And holy fuck, it is one of the greatest bass parts of a song ever created. And that's partially proven by just how difficult it is to play. I, by no means, am a great bass player, but I consider myself to be a relatively good one, and I can say with complete certainty that this is one of the most challenging songs I've ever played. The bass in Underground requires a lot of finger movement, memorization of a lot of different shapes, and a fuck ton of strength, energy, and agility because the song is very fast, very tiring to play, and requires a lot of practice. And I mean this all in the best way possible because the challenge this song gives me as a bassist impresses me. It doesn't piss me off. And as my teacher taught me the bass tabs for the song, he also pointed out how impressive the drums were. I am not a drummer, and I'm absolutely terrible at drums, but even I could tell how cool the drumming in the song was on the surface level. It's tight, fast-paced, and fits the grooviness of the song. But when he showed me the crazy skill it took to play those parts on drums, I was even more impressed. Of course, the guitar and vocals in the song are great too. After the first chorus, there's a fucking glitch pedal solo. How fucking cool is that? High Voltage absolutely could have gotten away with doing the bare minimum for this song, but luckily they decided to create this complete masterpiece, knowing full well that it would be cut to 1 minute and 30 seconds for TV. So needless to say, after all this, I decided that I needed to find out more stuff by this band, and that's exactly what I set out to do. And then I had already encountered my first problem because, as I said earlier, The only release High Voltage has on Spotify is Underground, and it's not even the full release either, because it was actually released as a single with 2 B-sides, and neither of those are on Spotify, so... I then went to their Rate Your Music page and found them there, and they have, according to the site at least, 2 full studio albums and 4 EPs, but technically just 2 because their first 2 EPs are literally just their first album split into 2 parts. I figured I would listen to their first album first, and I knew that I would be able to listen to their entire discography because I'd be able to find all of it. Their debut album is called, how do I pronounce this? Gefühl? Yeah, that. The album, as far as I can tell, is not on any American streaming services and was never released physically in America either. Well, not that that would matter because I don't have a CD or record player because I'm fucking broke. However, I was lucky enough to find a YouTube rip of the full album uploaded by a user by the name of Deep Sound Diver, and I'll link it in the description so you can listen to it, and thank you to Deep Sound Diver for uploading that. And you'd better listen to it because holy fuck, this album is incredible. It's a mix of the genres I listed earlier, and it even branches into a little bit of experimental rock and shoegaze. If you've listened to Underground and are a fan of the song, then you'll like this album because it features all of the cool instrumental stuff, as well as the really awesome screamy punkish vocals. Track 5, which is playing right now, was definitely my favorite track off of the album. It sort of reminded me of late 90s Sonic Youth, mixing mellow, unique guitar tunes with more loud, abrasive solos and stuff. It's absolutely one of the better moments of the album, which there are a lot of, but still. Unfortunately, while Gefühl is still a beyond solid debut album, it's still pretty easy to tell that it's a debut album, and that the band still sorta needs to find their footing here. There are weaker, but still enjoyable tracks, like 10 and 12, and then there's my least favorite track off the album, track 6. Track 6 is the only song I really disliked from the album. As I stated earlier, I really love the frontman's voice and how whiny in a good way, not in an Oasis way, and screamy it is. But it's really annoying in this song. The song has some decent moments, but everyone sort of sounds like they're out of rhythm in it, so it just sounds pretty bad. Despite this though, Gefühl is still a really awesome debut album and gets an 8 out of 10. Really close to being a 9, but it doesn't quite get there for me. But it's still such a good album, so good, in fact, that I made it my mission to listen to High Voltage's entire discography. And then I had already run out of luck. Their second album, One, which is a great name for a second album, is, as far as I can tell, impossible to find. For a number of reasons, too. There are so many albums out there called One, first of all, and High Voltage is... I'm sorry, probably one of the least original names you could pick for a band, and like Gefühl, it is not on vinyl or CD. Given how this is one of the just 2 albums this band released, and that this is supposed to be a video partially about finding everything I can by the band, it's more than a little embarrassing to admit that I never ended up finding the album. I reached out to both Deep Sound Diver, who uploaded the first album, and a High Voltage Archive channel that is aptly named, well, High Voltage Archive channel, to see if either of them had access to the album. Unfortunately, neither of these channels have uploaded within the past 5 years, so I don't think I'll be expecting a response anytime soon. Needless to say, I had encountered a major setback in my mission to listen to every release by High Voltage. But then I remembered, there's only one right thing to do when life knocks you down, and that's... change your mission statement to listen to as many High Voltage releases as possible. And this applies to every bad situation, by the way. Doesn't matter if it's about High Voltage or not. If I ever end up finding this album, I'll be sure to make a part 2 to this video. In fact, if you're watching this video and you happen to have access to the album, let me know down in the comments below. Anyways, up next are Core and Spiral, 2 EPs that were both released in 2006. I was able to find them thanks to the High Voltage Topic channel, which has both the releases in full. Again, links in description. When I checked out the channel, I saw a couple of other releases and I got excited before finding out the hard way that High Voltage Topic is a channel auto-generated by YouTube that compiles releases by bands called High Voltage unless they actively request to be removed from it. What I'm trying to say here is that you might either find a release by High Voltage and really enjoy it, or you might find a terrible cover of the already terrible song Creep by Radiohead and regret everything. Anyways, Core is a really solid EP and I really enjoyed it. It sees the band honing their style of music and leaning a lot more into the math rock aspect of it. There's also the introduction of some Midwest emo in there, a genre I wish had a different name because it makes it sound really fucking stupid. The perfect example of this Midwest emo / math rock combo is the first song off of the EP, Nostalgia, which was my favorite song off of the whole thing. It keeps the band's trademark sound, but the two aforementioned genres really take the stage here, and it works perfectly. It's a super good song, and also just a great starter for the EP. The rest of the songs more or less follow the same formula, but it's never repetitive or boring due to the experimentation from all of the band members. There are some tracks I liked less than others, but I still enjoyed all of them, except for one. Track 4, Spook, is hard to describe without using the term annoying. The instruments aren't bad, but the vocalist sounds like he has a fucking cold or something in this song. Not too far into the song, it also turns into a weird, incoherent, rambling spoken word song. Don't get me wrong, bands like Talking Heads can and have made that kind of music work, but High Voltage, can't. Track 4 really bums me out, because without it, this EP absolutely could have been better than their debut. But since it's one out of only 6 songs, it sticks out like a sore thumb and lowers my rating down to a low 8 out of 10. Spiral is sort of a return to form for the band, but not completely, as it goes back to their post-hardcore / math rock roots, but they still play some of that Midwest emo flair. I was sort of disappointed at first, because I really loved the style of music in Core, but then I remembered, oh yeah, I love this style too. My favorite track off of Spiral was definitely Season. Like Underground, it's a straightforward rocker on surface level, but it's really complex underneath all of that energy. As for my least favorite track, I would definitely have to give it to My Report, the final song off of the EP. It's still a decent song, but it's too slow moving for me, and the vocals seem sort of off. But like I said, it's still an alright song, and I'd give the EP a 9 out of 10. I'll move on from this section in a bit, but first, I wanted to give my personal ranking of these 3 releases. I personally put Spiral at the number 1 spot, due to it being the most consistently good release, followed by Gefühl at number 2, and it really pains me to say this, but Core at number 3. Core is, without a doubt, the least consistently good release from the band, but when it's good, it's really good. So now that we've talked about all of their albums, yep, definitely all of them, I think it's time to talk about how criminally underrated this band is. And when I say underrated, I really mean it, because out of all of the artists that I've listened to, none of them have been anywhere near as difficult to track down as this band. I wasn't even able to find one of their albums, and as far as I'm concerned, it might even not exist. Now, I've called bands and artists underrated before. For example, I think the Meat Puppets are super underrated, but the difference between High Voltage and the Meat Puppets is that the Meat Puppets have around 400k monthly listeners on Spotify, and High Voltage has 11k, which may be due to the fact that they only have one song on Spotify, but still. And when I went to go rate their releases on Rate Your Music, a site that a lot of niche musicians have found a pretty big fan base on, I was the second person to rate Gefühl and Spiral, and the only person to rate Core. Keep in mind, these albums have been out for nearly 18 years now. But the difference between these two bands is that High Voltage is a Japanese band, and probably doesn't have as big of an audience in America. The Pillows, my favorite J-rock band, only has around 300k monthly listeners on Spotify, but they're still very popular in Japan. So I figured that maybe that was also the case for High Voltage. As I was researching the band, I stumbled upon their Japanese Wikipedia page, because yes, they're apparently so unknown here that they don't even have their own regular Wikipedia page, and after translating it, I found one release that wasn't on Rate Your Music, Core Time Final DVD. I was lucky enough to stumble upon a YouTube rip of this concert, which is pretty funny given how still, to this day, I cannot find one of their actual albums. Shout out to Slayer Piano Man for uploading this, by the way. But first things first, before we talk about how this proves how underrated High Voltage is, let's talk about the concert itself. I don't know if it's because of whoever recorded the concert for the DVD, or because it's a YouTube rip, or because of the person in charge of the sound check for the concert, but the audio quality is not the greatest. More than a few times, the instruments and vocals will drown each other out and overpower the rest of the audio. But once you get past that, it's a fucking incredible concert, and I'd recommend checking out the video, which I'll link in the description. I know not everyone is going to have the time or attention span to watch an hour-long concert, but I'd at least recommend watching the performance of Underground, which one of the people in the comment section was nice enough to timestamp. But how does this link to how underrated the band is? Well, this concert took place in 2008. Underground was released in 2007 and was used as the Gurren Lagann ending theme in 2008. And given the popularity of the anime and the attention it drew towards High Voltage, it's probably safe to assume that this was the band's height of popularity. And yet, there is barely anyone at this concert. I'd be surprised if there were more than 100 people in that audience. And that's when I reached my conclusion. High Voltage isn't just unpopular here outside of Japan. It's just unpopular. So no fucking wonder it's so hard to find out literally anything about this band. Aside from Underground and a handful of YouTube rips, it's practically impossible to find anything by them online, and the biggest source I have of them is a roughly translated Japanese Wikipedia page. So that brings me to the question in the title of this video. What the hell happened to High Voltage? According to Japanese Wikipedia, High Voltage disbanded in 2008 and that DVD concert was their final one. However, they apparently got back together in 2016 and, according to this very limited source of information, are still around today. But as far as I can tell, they haven't done anything for a while now. Oh yeah, speaking of which, where are the band members now and what are they up to? I tried to find out by looking up some of the names of the band members online, but unfortunately, looking up the members of High Voltage was like searching yourself up online. Chances are you're probably going to find some neurosurgeon instead of who you're actually looking for. No matter how many different ways I tried to look them up, I kept either getting results I wasn't looking for or right back to where I started. I was about to give up when all of a sudden I stumbled upon the High Voltage Info Twitter page. If there's one place I would find the band members, it would probably be here. The good news was that the account was following 4 people. There are 4 band members, so chances are they'd be following at least one. The bad news was that to see if my suspicions were correct, I needed to create a Twitter account, and I didn't want to do so for a variety of reasons. But I needed to complete my mission, and if completing it meant that I was now at risk of Elon Musk giving my personal information to some stupid AI program, then I guess I was fine with it. So after creating an account, I checked who High Voltage was following, and I lucked out. Trying to ignore the fact that I was exhibiting creep behavior at this point, the first page I clicked on was the account of frontman Takahashi Taibo, only to find out that he had reposted one thing in 2016 and nothing else. We're off to a great start here. Fortunately, I had much better luck with drummer Hishitani Masahiro, who had actually posted at the time of writing the script this month. After translating a handful of his posts, I was able to determine that he is currently part of a band called Hinto and has also taken up gardening. If I do ever end up making a part 2 to this video, I'll be sure to talk about Hinto on it. Moving on to guitarist Saito Kohei, I had mixed luck. I was partially lucky because the account I found was actually his, but I was also mostly unlucky because his account is private and I don't want to wait 3 days for him to accept my follow request, because as soon as I finish recording this segment, I am deleting my account. And also, since he's a private account, he probably only lets people he knows follow him, and I, believe it or not, do not know him, so. Upon reading his bio, however, I found out that he's the guitarist of a band called Public Drunks, which is a fantastic name for a band, and again, if I make a part 2 on this video, I will talk about them. While looking for more info on the bassist, Yoshioka Takahiro, I found out that he is no longer a part of High Voltage and may have stopped making music entirely. According to the band's page on the Japanese Wikipedia, they had reached out to him when they were reuniting in 2016, but never got a response. This was really fucking sad to find out about, because if I'm being honest, he was the one I wanted to find out more about the most. This dude wrote one of the most incredible bass lines I've ever heard, and then, as far as I can tell, again, vanished off of the face of the planet, because it's almost like the internet wants to hide the fact that he exists. And I'm like, half joking, because I shit you not, I tried at least 10 different ways of researching this man up on Google, and none of them worked. At this point, I'm not even worried about gathering information for this video, I just hope this guy's okay. Anyways, this video has gone on for far too long now, so I think now's a good time to really answer the big question. What the hell happened to High Voltage? And the answer to that question is sort of underwhelming. As far as I can tell, the band is still definitely around, but some of the members are busy with other projects and hobbies, some of the members are presumably busy with other projects and hobbies, and some of the members are busy not existing. But I guess that all I can really say for now is that I hope they'll perform and release new music again someday, or at the very least, officially disband so I can give a clear answer on this topic. But for now, listen to their already existing album and EPs, and Underground. Who knows, maybe it'll convince them to come back and release more music, and maybe release one instead of having it just in the obscurity somewhere. Speaking of which, if you have access to that album or any information about the band or its members that it didn't cover here, please comment it below or DM me on Instagram or something to let me know about it, because I would love to make a part 2 on this video. I'll credit you and everything. I just want to find out as much as I can about this band because I really like them. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching this video, and please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing, because it totally helps me out, and I hope to see you in the next one.